So that first month that I started, I lost my whale client and I was really scared. I was like, oh, the worst fear I had actually happened.
Welcome to the Smart Gets Paid podcast with me, Leah Niederthal. I help women land higher paying clients in their independent consulting businesses, but I've never been a salesperson. My background is in corporate marketing, and when I started my first consulting business, I learned pretty quickly that it's about 1,000 times harder to sell your own stuff than it is to sell someone else's. So I taught myself how to do it, and I created the sales approach that I now share with my clients so they can feel more comfortable in the sales process, get more of the right clients, and get paid way more for every client contract. So whether your client contracts are $5,000, $100,000, or more, if you want to work with more of the clients you love, do more of the work you love, and get paid more than you ever thought you could, then you're in the right place. Let's do it together. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to rate, review, and share. Hey there, Leah here, and thanks for tuning in. I hope that wherever you're listening to this, wherever you are right now, you're having a great week, making some good progress in your business, and taking some time for you. All right, so picture it. It's the early 2000s, say like 2008 to 2015. And I was a young woman, living the dream in my career in the advertising world. And if it was Sunday night, there was one place you can find me. On my couch, glued to the TV, watching a show that I was obsessed with, Mad Men. Did you watch Mad Men? If you watched it, you know it was so good. It was about an advertising agency in the 60s and all the drama that came with that industry and that time. I loved that show. I still do. And in the show, the agency was called Sterling Cooper. And Sterling Cooper had a client that was Lucky Strike cigarettes, okay? And Lucky Strike was its biggest client, biggest client by far. I actually did some digging on Reddit, and I discovered that they actually do say that Lucky Strike accounted for 71% of the Sterling Cooper business. And for an advertising agency, or really any business, that's really risky. And because Lucky Strike was its biggest source of income, biggest source of revenue, a lot of the client drama in the show actually stemmed from the fact that Lucky Strike sort of forgive the expression, but it was like the 60s, it sort of had them by the balls. The client made demands and Don Draper and the team just had to sort of go with it. They could squash and regularly did squash the ideas that the team came up with. They even got Sterling Cooper's best art director fired, the very closeted Sal Romano. And they can do that because Lucky Strike accounted for so much of the business. They were, as we call it, their whale client. Now, a whale client is a large client or a large customer that provides a significant portion of a company's revenue or a company's business. And the phrase actually comes from gambling, where a whale, air quotes whale, is a name for a wealthy, high-stakes gambler. And I was thinking about Mad Men and Lucky Strike as I was editing this episode. Because in this episode, I'm talking to a woman who found herself in a similar situation. And it's what she did next that really turned things around and helped her diversify her client base. And that's what you're going to hear in this episode. So today I'm talking to Cara Barnes, who does fractional HR work in her company called Good Karma Consulting. And as you're going to hear, Cara's business appeared to be doing well, on the surface, but Cara knew that it was sort of balancing on the head of a pin. And that's because just about all of her work came from one client, her whale client. And that was affecting how she worked with her client, how they treated her, and how she felt about herself as a business owner. And she knew that being reliant on that one client was a risky move. So she knew that she needed to get other clients and have a more diversified client base so that she was safer, so her revenue was more secure, and she wasn't just beholden to this one client. So in this episode, you're going to hear the decisions that Cara made that helped her get more and different clients. You'll hear how she developed even how she's working with those clients. You're going to hear the very time-sensitive reason why she needed to figure this out. And you'll hear how she's grown her business and how she's giving back. Now, the conversation you're going to hear actually took place inside the academy. It's a love seat call. And Love Seats are our version of Hot Seats. They're a live session for the community where I invite Academy members to share behind the scenes in their business. You know, what's worked, what hasn't, and what we can all learn from them. Love Seats happen every month, and this month I had invited Cara to be our Love Seat guest. So take a listen to my conversation with Cara Barnes, and at the end, I'll come back and share a lesson that you can apply to your business. And then hopefully someday soon, you'll partner with us to help you build your consulting business, and you'll come back on the podcast and share your story. Enjoy. You guys gave a warm welcome to Cara. Cara, I'm so glad that you are here. I'm so excited for our conversation. Cara, well, thanks for being here.
Thank you. And I apologize. I'm so sorry for being late. I hate being late to things.
It's totally okay. This is life, right? So we're just going to have a friendly conversation. Everyone's here to learn from you what's working in your business, maybe what hasn't worked in your business, where you are now, and some of the things that have helped you get there. First, Cara, just really quick, introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah. I'm Cara Barnes. I'm a fractional HR and founder of Good Karma Consulting. And I help small nonprofits and startups build their HR foundation so that they can get the best out of their people.
Nice. Look at, just very nice. Okay. So Cara, take us back to what was your situation in your business when we started working together? Like what were, 2 or 3 problems that needed to be solved?
Right. Oh my gosh, Leah, I feel like we've been working together for years, but it's only been like a little over a year. So face value, surface level, I was thinking about this. This is why I said yes to going into Smart Gets Paid. One of them was because I had a whale client who I had kind of relied everything on. And I was really nervous. If I lost this client, then that just goes my business. And I didn't have enough coming in to be able to feel safe on that. So that's one of the biggest issues. Second is I'm in what we call the messy middle, where I couldn't figure out why I was kept on getting random referrals that wasn't really my business. And people are this is what you do, right? And they had no clue, or there was no messaging. And to be fair, it was because I was wanting to be everything to everybody. So that was a problem, and it was not sustainable. And it's hard to get clients that way when you yourself don't really know what your focus is and your niche is. That was a problem. And overall, I was so exhausted. I remember at the time I was working crazy hours, because when you're working your business, it's hard to actually work on clients and then also work on your business. So those are the biggest 3 big problems I had before starting with you, Leah.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, as you're listening to this, does any of this sound familiar? What might be going on? Tell us in the chat. Having a whale client. I mean, the clients that pay the big bucks, those are great. But when you are, when you're reliant on that, how did that affect your business at the time?
I mean, I was acting like their employee rather than a consultant that is strategic, because I was so desperate. I didn't realize this. It's subconscious, right? That I was acting like their employee, and they treated me as such. So you put out what you want, how you want to be treated, and you communicate that with your clients. And I was, in every aspect of my business, I was acting very thank you so much for allowing me to work with you kind of mentality. And so that really, it wasn't great for my self-esteem, and it wasn't great for my income, because they weren't getting charged a lot. I was charging them really barely nothing. And I was reliant on that. So, and I didn't have enough time to look for other clients, because I was so bogged down with the work with this existing client. So it was this weird, I was this is not sustainable. But yet I was also but I'm profitable. I'm I'm getting money in. So I'm outside looking at everybody's Cara, you're so successful. Oh my gosh, you're doing so well. Your business is afloat. And, and I was riding off of that. I have my own business, kind of thing. But there was definitely things underneath that I was this is not what I want.
Yeah. Was there ever a moment, because I've heard this from people, I've also, felt this at different points, where everyone's you're doing so great, you're killing it. And you're almost if you only knew, or you have some sort of dirty little secret that your whole business was riding on this one client.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so true. I felt very lonely too. I remember feeling like I'm a social person and started my own business. There wasn't anybody who can help me. Like there wasn't anybody that knew what I was going through because nobody else started their own business. And if I tried to get advice from other people, they just didn't get it because they didn't have their own business. They didn't have their consulting company, and they couldn't really help me, you know. So I felt very lonely and very like kind of lost into like, well, I don't even know how. I know there's a problem, but I don't even know how to fix this. I don't even know how to get out of that situation. Like ultimately,
Yeah.
what I wanted and what I figured out through like program is like, so that was surface level. I mean, those are real problems, right? But like deep down, I think what I really wanted was I wanted to like work in my zone of genius. Like I wanted to do the work that I was really good at and I was really like I could do and like not even care like how much I get paid. Obviously I do care. So I wanted to create my own schedule. I wanted to work with people that actually respected me, who thought of me as a thought leader and who like valued my advice. And I wanted to make a lot of money doing it. So like that was like the real reason.
Yeah. No shame
So
in that. I mean, that's what we're
yeah.
here for, right?
Yeah.
So bring us up to speed now and tell us how things are right now. And then what we're going to do is, how did you get here? Like, what were the game changers that helped you get here? So
Okay.
bring us up to speed. Like, were some results that you've seen, in the business? Like what's changed for the better?
Well, definitely don't have a whale client anymore. I have like a more diversified clients. So if I lose one or two, it doesn't like break the bank. And so I'm not dependent on just one client. And that helps a lot. I have very specific niche packages that I offer now that I don't like cut and change. And the business also, like that's kind of like how we got there. But the business right now, I have 5 employees, which is insane to me thinking about it. We've grown 3 times my gross income since I first started. We have like prospects and referrals coming in every 2 days. Like I'm getting a referral or people reaching out. It's like my pipe is like growing pretty rapidly. And now it's a new challenge of like, okay, how do we put them on a wait list and then get them scheduled for like future work? I mean, it feels really good. I'm also creating my own schedule and I like figured out how to like to have my nanny in the mornings and then like the rest of the afternoon I could really just dedicate my time to my son. And that's like was like the main reason why I even started my own business is I wanted to like have some freedom and like some flexibility and like downtime with my family. And I have that now. And like I don't take meetings on Fridays. That was like another goal. So yeah, I'm really kind of riding it right now. I'm very excited to see how strong Good Karma is. And this is where we're at now. This is where we stay. And it feels good talking about it. Yeah.
Oh my God, you guys, do you hear this?
Yeah.
This is amazing. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because I remember when you and I first started talking and you were like, we're going to try to get pregnant this year.
Yeah.
And I was like, great, this is the time to, to sort of focus on this business. And we're going to get to that in a second. And now, fast forward, not only is the business thriving, but you have time to spend, with your son, and you also have support as well.
Yeah. I mean, you remind me that I was going to say, like, I was really in a down place where we were trying to conceive for years and we realized like we need help. So we were going to go through IVF. And anybody who's gone through IVF know, like, it's like, you have to have a flexible schedule. And I knew I couldn't do it with like my workload. There was just no way because you have to like go in every 2 days to get your blood work done. And there's like, it's just an emotional roller coaster as well. And so being able to like not rely on that one whale client and get more prospects coming in and like being able to like authoritatively say like, I can do that, or you're going to get that next week, like manage my time, have boundaries. Cause like I got more confidence when you're not reliant on the whale client. So it helped for, I could just clearly say like, I have a doctor's appointment that day, or I had to move things last minute. I'm like, hey, I got, like it was easier to do. And one of the bigger wins, I just remembered now, like now I'm employing mothers who, are looking for work from home, remote jobs, part-time, and they can't find that elsewhere. And then like now Good Karma Consulting is able to, like 3 of my employees are working mothers from home. And that feels like just like I don't know, it heals my heart a little bit. I'm getting emotional thinking about it, but like that kind of heals my heart a little bit, like that I get to give that to them, that they can bring in some income in and like be there for their children and be there like for their families while still getting some income, like one of my people who I just hired, she's like, I've been a stay-at-home mom for 3 years, been trying to find a part-time position that would work with my schedule and flexibility. And now I could offer that to her, through these clients that I'm getting in, so that's, I think, one of like the most like biggest win that I got that wasn't planned. That's like I wasn't planning to hire just stay-at-home moms. Like that just worked out that way. Yeah.
Yeah. But that you can give back.
Yes.
You said that you're getting, every couple of days you get, a referral, right? Or somebody reaching out to you. And are they the right people, or is it just sort of anyone?
Yeah. So that was the problem first before I worked with Smart Gets Paid. I was just like, it seems common sense now, right? I was like on LinkedIn, just not having the right client signaling. So now my sales process are so quick. So anytime somebody comes and refers me or talks to me or reaches out to me, it's like a two call close. And so far in the last like 3-4 months, just recently, I have 100% close rate. It's crazy. So every time somebody I talk to, they're so exactly my ideal client. And I always go, oh, I can totally fix this problem. And I've got you. And I confidently say that. And so they're like following up me, like, can you send a proposal? And if after I send the proposal, even like the high amount that I'm charging now, I'm always like still a little afraid to send it. But now they're like, I had to reschedule a couple of things. And the CFO was like, even if we can't meet, can we still push through? Like, I was like, normally we have another call after the proposal and they try to negotiate the scope and the pricing, but I get people who want to like jump right away and start. And I have the opposite problem. Like I can't start you now. I have to wait until like these 2 months. So it's a faster sales process and close rate now. And it's because the people who are reaching out to me or being referred to me are like my ideal client. So
yes. Oh, I love that. Well, so walk us through what has helped you get here? Because it wasn't always easy, right? No. And P.S., you guys, she went on a maternity leave in between all of this. So I feel like, one story arc that I see is like how you had to, you just like built your business twice in a way, because you like built up before mat leave and then you came back. But anyway, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Tell us, like, what are a few of the biggest game changers that have made the biggest difference?
Yeah, this was like really hard to think through because there were so many things, even at the micro level, that changed. But so before I went on maternity, what happened that I changed, the biggest change was like, I really like you say it, plant the flag, like just decide what your niche is, what you're really good at, what you love doing. And I remember making that decision, whether or not I felt like I was like qualified to do that. I was like, you know what, just do it. Like, this is what I want to do. So I was trying to embody what I wanted to do. Because before I was like, oh, I don't know if I have the skill set for that. Or there's so many other people who are doing it better than me, or like something like that. Right. So I just like, no, this is what I want to do. This is what I feel like I'm passionate about, whether or not I feel like I'm qualified. Let's put that aside and just like plant a flag. Like, this is what I'm deciding to do. And I was so afraid, because I was like, well, that would like reduce the amount of referrals coming in, but like the opposite happened. So as soon as I decided, that was like the biggest thing that changed, because that influenced everything else. Like, it was like trickle down effect, right? So as soon as I decided what I wanted to do, that affected my packages, what my selling, the verbiage I would use on LinkedIn, who I was attracting. So client signaling was like the biggest thing. And I decided, if I don't like, well, I'll just try for 3 months. And if I don't like it, I'll change it. But I think it's like the wishy-washy, like back and forth of like, I do this or I do that. That was like hurting me. So that was like the biggest thing.
Yeah. Like, I remember when things started to click for you, because I think you came in to the community and you were like, because I think you'd come to some coaching calls and things like weren't sort of, just weren't clicking yet, or weren't sort of dialed in. And then all of a sudden you came into the community and you posted like, I've gotten like 3 clients in the past like 2 days. Right. And it was when you stopped trying to talk to all the people.
Yeah.
And you really started to talk to the type of organizations that you really wanted. It was that client signaling.
It was like just the shift. I was like, and no wonder why people were sending me these random referrals, because I was random on LinkedIn. Like I was like, I'll do recruiting, I'll do whatever. Like, and
well, and sometimes
like,
people don't realize. Sometimes people don't realize how random they're being until they stop being so random, right? Until they plant their flag and really start like talking about it. Masha has a great question. Can you give an example of what you said no to as you dialed in your ideal client? Like, what did you leave out?
Yeah, there was so many. I was trying to do like HR in itself is like a lot. So I do HR, but there was like somewhere like, do you work with 100+ clients? I was like, no, I don't. Like, so I was just starting to weed it down more, like who I wanted to work with. So it was like both ways. It was like ideal client first and then scope. So, and it just kept on narrowing down. So I would drop things like, I don't work with like manufacturing companies anymore. I'm not going to go to a company that requires me to be there in person. Like there was a lot of like restaurants that were like asking for like help and support. And it got to a point where it wasn't even about the business anymore. It was about the person. So like, is the C-level or this executive open to change? And so I was tailoring my discovery questions, my type of client that I wanted to work with more specifically. So, and that just happened to be like, I wanted like an entrepreneur, a startup or a small nonprofit person who's like, knows that HR is not their expertise. Like, so I was like looking for triggers like that, like signals like that this person is the type of person I want to work with. So I would tailor my messaging, envisioning that person was reading that. Right.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And writing for that person really helps. I always say that like writing for a group of people or writing for the internet or writing for LinkedIn is impossible. But if you're envisioning that you're just writing to the one person, it makes it so much easier. And I think also one thing that I just want to tease out here is that it's a process of like chipping away.
Yeah.
It's and oftentimes you have to try it and then you realize it's not right. You know, it's like you would not have had the same results if you just sat there and thought about it forever, right? But you talked to people, you might have worked with some type of clients or done some type of work that you're like, now that I'm in it, this is not exactly it. But also getting really honest with yourself about like, who am I best for? Who is best for me?
Right.
And it doesn't sound like these huge companies or teeny tiny companies are the right ones.
Yeah. Another like example of that with Masha, your question was, I kept on like posting things on like, get compliant. And I hate doing compliance work. So I'm like, why am I posting on LinkedIn that you should get compliant as a business? Because that's like that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to work on the foundation of how to get your people operating better. And that's like a different line of HR. That's more on performance management and goal creating and job descriptions and recruiting. So it's not on compliance. Like, yeah, sure, we do that. That business still comes in, but it wasn't what I was trying to set myself as.
Yeah. What else? What else is another game changer?
I would say mentality. I feel like I definitely feel more confident now in my services, and just it feels really good. Like, especially when there's bumpy times when you're a consultant, there's like, sometimes it feels like feast or famine. But now I have like this, like, kind of like, I know it's going to work out, and it sounds foo-foo and it's like not really the universe, whatever. But I know if I just follow the steps, if I follow through what the program is, I will get clients flowing in. And that's been the biggest game changer. Like, there's no like desperation or despair on the side where I'm like, do I need to just close up shop? Like, because I felt that way right before. When I started with Smart Gets Paid, and then I had like a lot of like positive wins that happened, but then I actually got pregnant. So what I wanted happened, I got pregnant, and that really like kind of like threw things for a loop, because I'm like, but now what? Now I have all these clients. I'm going to go maternity. It's just me. And so I had to like really change my business again to like bring in help. And so I hired my first person. We created a maternity leave plan, and I've actually now I'm able to scale. So like that's the second biggest game changer is like first win was like I found my niche client who I wanted to work with. My second biggest win was like now I can scale and actually take in more clients because I've built a structure to have people help me underneath and like actually invoice them at my higher rate. Before I was like discounting and reducing my fee, and now I can afford to like have help to be able to like delegate some of those tasks, and I can focus on bringing in more business. Because that was a fear of mine. I was like, I don't have time to bring on another client, but I need more money. So I couldn't figure that out. So like now I'm like, okay, I'm creating this like my own foundation to scale, which would I help other startups and companies do, but I wasn't doing for myself. So now I'm actually doing it for my own company. So that's like the second biggest win I feel. That's huge,
Yeah.
right? Mm-hmm.
I hear this from a lot of women because they're in this transition point, but they're kind of stuck because they want to take on more work. They want to bring on somebody. They don't have the work yet, and they are still, not in control of their own business development, right? But once you like know how to bring in business, then you know how to give your employees the work, right? It's like you can sort of unstuck yourself from. That's not a word, but you can sort of get yourself out, dislodge yourself from that place.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much work you have to do through Smart Gets Paid that I remember feeling like, oh, this is taking so much of my time. But it was like good work that I needed to do. And it's like, the painkiller statement, like truly understanding what my clients need and what their challenges were. There was the proposal email, or like even just like figuring out the values of my proposals. Like I was getting problems with clients in the beginning where I was trying to charge high rate, but I couldn't like vocalize and verbalize why I'm charging the higher rate, if that makes sense. So like the racetrack and the work of doing those packages and like value packing those help justify it. So there's a lot of like HR work that is like called like invisible work. I had to like really be Captain Obvious to say, hey, I completed these things for you, or my team completed these things for you, and the value of that is this, like really kind of vocalizing that. I learned that through Smart Gets Paid. I never did that before. I was always like a hard worker, like if I work hard and I get things done, then they'll see how good I am and how valuable I am. And that was like such a poor mentality. And that's a biggest win too that's changed since working with Leah. It's like, no, you gotta be like, you might think it's obvious, but they don't. They only see like, why am I paying her this amount of money? Like it's made my business better because now I'm like, this is the value you're getting. Like I constantly say that. Even during meetings now where they go, can you do that? Oh, yes, let me take that off your plate because that will allow you to do this. Like I even like start talking like that now during my one-on-one check-ins with my clients. So that's helped.
Yeah. I mean, constantly putting the value front and center, I think it's such a good muscle to build because we have to remember that like, it's kind of like what you said, the work to justify the sale isn't over when the sale happens, right? And we are constantly teaching people how to think about us, how to think about our value. Mm-hmm. And I love that you just said Captain Obvious. I say that all the time, right? It's like Captain Obvious. If you want them to know something, you have to make them know it, right? You can't take for granted that they'll just intuit, the value that you provide.
Yeah. Like I was afraid to say it. Like I felt like I was like being cocky, or it was like I was afraid to like boast myself or like talk about myself to them. But I was like, why? They need to know.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you feel like made the biggest difference for you?
I would also say it's how I communicate with CEOs and C-levels. I think kind of some of the questions where I was now putting myself as a strategic advisor instead of like the doer. I think that's the biggest win too. And now because I've hired employees, they're the doers. And so when I'm on the calls with these CEOs or CFOs, I have my team with me and I'm the strategic giving advice to them, and they see me as a thought leader. Whereas before it was just me and the CEO, and they would tell me what to do, and I would just kind of go, okay, I'll do that, and never challenge them or say like, actually, I don't think that's the right decision, kind of thing. And that I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but I feel like that was such a game changer for me for my business of then valuing my time and my expertise and knowing that I'm not your employee, I'm my own business. And yeah, that's, I think, my biggest
Yeah.
win. And knowing, and also make big win too is like now I can see my future. Where before I was like, how can I get out of this rat race and feeling lost and feeling like this is not what I wanted and like I don't know how to get there. Like now I like there's don't get me wrong, there's still so much growth to do and there's still like there's new challenges and there's new things that I need to still figure out. But I could see end game. I can see like steps I need to take to get to where I want to be. Where I want to take my business. And it's like actionable steps that it not easy, but like attainable. Like it's not a pie in the sky dream. It's not like something like, yeah, sure, whatever. And no, like if that's my goal, there's like I can reach that if I follow these steps. Like if I continue to client signal, if I continue to like create value and like talk about my value, I'm gonna hit that number and I'm gonna like create this environment for me. And like going back to is like, oh, another big win. So there's so many wins, but one of it was too is like I decide and create my workload, my schedule. I decide how my business goes. Like make it so. Like make it so is like such a like I say that all the time now. Make it so. Because like before I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think they're going to be okay us not being able to work on Fridays. Because I decided that like we're not taking meetings on Fridays anymore. Like as a company.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I don't know if they're going to be okay with that. It's like, well, no, I'm going to make it so. This is what the boundary is, right?
Seriously, if there's something I want every person to walk away with, I think it's such a big shift to give yourself permission.
Yeah.
I want to just a few more questions, and then I want to open it up to you guys. So start thinking about what questions you'd like to ask Cara.
Yeah.
Just fill in the blank for me. Because I'm always curious. I almost didn't work with you, or I almost didn't join the program because why?
At the time, I felt like the money or the payment was a lot. I remember, and I was successful. Like I was making money. So I was like, do I really need this? Is this something that I really need? That was like the biggest thing.
And then what happened? I mean, have you earned back your payment?
So that first month that I started, I lost my whale client. And I was really screwed. I forgot to tell you this, but I was really screwed. I was like, oh, the worst fear I had actually happened. And thank goodness I signed up beforehand. Like I think a month before the client gave me their 30 days. So I had 60 days. And because we were already working for that month, I was already starting to build my pipeline and get my client signaling. And so I was able to bounce back. Like I didn't even skip a month. Like I was never in the red because we were already working towards it. And I ended up gaining like 2 more clients after that whale client that paid the same amount, but less on like the workload. So not only did I work less, I got paid more. And I basically paid for like all of Spark gets paid in that one, in the first 3 months for the entire year. So it paid for itself for that. And I was like, good thing I said yes. Because what if I lost a whale client? Even more would have been able to afford you after the fact. So like, it was like perfect timing for me that I signed up. And I remember like, Leah, this is what you said on the call when I was hesitant about the number. And you're like, why don't you think about it? And like, let's talk next week. Like you gave me a week, but then you still put time on the calendar for the following week.
Yeah. Book a call from a call, dude.
Yeah. And then you also said something that challenged me. You're like, well, why are you meeting with me? Because I was like, I'm fine. I had a sales background. So I'm like, I'm really good in sales. So I don't really need sales help or whatever. And you're like, but why did you take this call with me then? And I remember like, because I do have a problem. There are challenges, but like, I don't know why I was like, I was starting to like backtrack, like, maybe I don't need this, maybe I don't need your help or whatever. But that one question, I was like, yeah, I need this. So there's a couple of things that made me decide to move forward.
Oh my gosh.
Because it paid for itself in the first 2 months. Oh my gosh. Thinking about it now. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That
I
was,
know. I know.
yeah,
And you guys, that's a great question for that anybody can ask, right? When when you're talking to a potential client and it sounds like, they're like, well, we already have this and we already have that and we're already doing this or whatever,
yeah.
say like, great. If you already have that, why do you need me? And let
I
them
use
tell
it
you.
now for other sales calls.
It's not, it's not trying to be like provocative. It's more just like,
Um,
why are we talking?
oh, you
Right?
weren't
What
worried about it at all. You were like curious. Okay, so why did you like if everything's okay in your world, why did you take this call? And it was like a really good question. And now I actually use that question now. They're like, oh,
Oh,
we
I
have
love it.
that. We have that covered. And I always say, that sounds great. So maybe we're like, maybe like you don't really need my services. Like I actually, I like make them question. I was like, oh, maybe, I was like, I could refer you to something else. We could think of something else. Maybe that we're not like in the right space or whatever. And they're like, no, 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 I need you.
It's a thought-provoking question, thought-provoking moment.
Yeah. And then Julia said too, thank you, Julia. But I decided to like from day one, I'm going to go all in. And like I needed to dedicate time to do the work. And it's hard work. I'm not gonna lie with you. It's tough. The first 3 months of like Spark Gets Paid, I was like, it was so challenging to like decide my painkiller statement, to write down what exactly my value was and write it down on paper. But like what was great is like the community was like in it with me and they were also feeling like the same. But I think it's like you have to go through it. Like you have to go through it to get to the other side. Like you have to kind of get in the weeds of it and like put the work in to figure out and find out. And just like knowing that it's never going to be perfect and just deciding. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, what you think is in the way is probably the way, right?
Yeah.
Um, so what would you say to someone who's in the position that you were back then? I mean, what advice would you give her?
Trust the process. I would say if you do the work here and like honestly take a look into seeing what you're offering and what you like, I would say, yeah, trust the process and also trust yourself. I think that's the biggest thing is you're the expert and know that you are and own it. And believe in what you do and what makes you different. Because it's like really easy to like, there's so many other CMOs, there's so many other fractional HRs, just they're doing this or doing that. And they're like, you're looking at others, like I would say do like the internal work. I think that's the biggest thing for me was like the biggest that had made the difference
Yeah.
in every aspect of my company.
Oh, so important.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. I want to open it up to you. What questions do you have for Cara, or what did she say that's getting you thinking? Katie asks, is the price for each package pretty consistent across clients or customized per client?
So it's 3 packages. And what I learned that Smart Gets Paid is the easy to say yes is always option 1. Because I'm like, I'm never leaving this without some kind of win. Like I'm going to get a project out of them. So the option 1 is the easy to say yes one. And option 2 and 3 kind of changes, but they're pretty consistent now. Where before, that's why it took me so long to make proposals. I was like making it up and changing my service or whatever. Now it's like consistently, I know what I'm doing. That took a lot of work to get to this point. It's like trial and error. You're like, in the beginning, you take on any client work you can. And then it started to build. I was like, oh, this is what I'm seeing is like a need. And that kind of helped tailor my messaging on LinkedIn too. So yeah, it's fairly consistent across all my clients now. It wasn't before.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that? Because, a lot of people come to me and they're like, well, I always do custom work and it's like a point of pride and every client is different and blah, blah, blah. Right. Did you ever worry that clients wouldn't say yes if you had a more programmatic or repeatable way of doing things?
Yeah. I think that's why the easy to say yes one option was my way of like making it more flexible. So like because there was a dream project that I always want to do for every client. And I've started to learn that they say they want one thing, but I really want to focus on this is what they really need. So that's my easiest say yes is like that first one.
And when you're saying, just as a quick heads up, sorry to interrupt you, but the easy to say yes is what we call the Etsy offer, right? If you haven't gotten there yet in the content. So Etsy stands for easy to say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say I did when I was first testing it out. Like when I came back from maternity, I was in a scary place a little bit because I was testing things out a little bit. And I got 3 no's in a row of like, oh, maybe I'm pricing too high. Maybe it's whatever. And unfortunately, that's just part of the game of like how you're figuring this out, like what works. And the problem too is I wasn't talking about price in the beginning and the first call because I didn't know, because I was making up the proposal and then customizing it so much that I didn't know what the work cost was going to be. And so I was spending a lot of work on the back end trying to figure out the proposal. And I go, well, how much would this cost? So I was like, I'm going to flip it. I'm going to say, this is the work I want to do. This is the cost it's going to take. And then I'll talk about it straight with the client on the first call and then they'll be like, oh, we don't need that much. That's where I go, okay, what are you really looking to spend? And then I create a package around their number. And that was the biggest game changer is like, you just have to say the price on the first call. And I think that's why I'm getting that's why I have 100% close rate now because I'm already saying the price beforehand. See, there's so many wins. There's so many things I didn't do before that it's different now.
Yeah. Stephanie asks, how long did it take running your business and doing different projects to land on these 3 packages? Can you just clarify that a bit?
So I've already been working on my business for like a year and a half before I worked with Leah. And then it was like the first 3 months where I decided to do the 3 packages because it was based on the proposal. And then through this process, being on maternity leave, coming back in the last, I guess, I don't know, how old's my son, 6 months. So like last 6 months, I've really kind of honed it in. Like it's really tight now. And that just happened in the last 6 months. I feel like I was able to create packages through Spark Gets Paid and like get a general idea. And then I pushed it out. So like originally I was like, maybe I do trainings. That was like a package that I'd been thinking about. And I decided that's not for me and I dropped it and it was, things like that. And I put a proposal out and it was declined. So like it is trial and error, but you have to you already have to have the packages in mind already before you test it out.
Yeah. Cara, can you tell the story of when somebody came to you who you had admired in the space?
Oh yeah, that was recently too. She had been in business for, I think, 15 years now. And I had worked with her with a different client. And I looked up to her so much. I felt like, oh my goodness, like she has her ish together. Like everything about her business. She had like 30 employees. Like everything about her, I felt like was what I wanted to encompass to being. And she actually, through client signaling on LinkedIn, reached out to me for help with her own business. And I was like, what? Like, you're going to ask me for help? You're like who I want to be. And yeah, it was a crazy moment. I was like, the client signaling is working. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
I know what Stephanie says too, like another reason to fill your pipeline. Yeah, like to test that. I felt like I had room to test because I was getting the pipe coming in and then flushing it out. And like I was getting stronger in my sales prospect calls and saying the number because I didn't need them. It's changing the like desperation part. Like it really affects like negotiation and sales if you're desperate for the deal. So yeah, like now I'm like, even though I'm so busy right now, like it's like a priority for me to continue to prospect.
Yeah. And, it's like the thing I posted in the community today. There is no magical place where that stops, right? Yeah. Because marketing your business is always part of building a business or running a business. Yeah. Okay. Lisa asks, how big do you want to be?
It's not necessarily like scale size or like how many employees. I don't really care about that. I want to be able to afford like the lifestyle that I have, which means like go on a random weekend vacation, take my son to swim school and afford that and not have to think about that. And, That's what drives me.
Yeah. You guys, if you have any other questions for Cara, please post them in the community. Cara, thank you again for sharing your journey, for what's worked, what was difficult, what was easy. What we can learn from you is so valuable. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks so much, everybody.
All right. I love that conversation with Cara. And if Cara said anything that spoke to you, please reach out to her and let her know and just say thank you. So we've been talking about going from having one whale client and being completely reliant on them to having multiple clients so that your business is more secure. And as a business owner, you're not beholden to any one client. And of course, so that, if the worst case scenario does happen and that whale client goes away, then you'll still be okay. And I have to say, the scenario that Cara found herself in, that's actually really common. It's a very easy situation to fall into, especially when you're early in your business. Because, you do enough business development to get things in the door. You tend to get your first, 1 to 2 clients, and then you sort of stop doing marketing. And then because of the way you're working with clients, and then of course, remember, you were in corporate like 5 minutes ago. So you still have a bit of that, mindset, and you end up like giving them your all. And of course, you stop doing marketing because you can't take on any clients anyway, because they're taking all of your time. Like I said, it's a really easy trap to fall into. But it's also one that's really important to get out of. Listen, I fell into that trap too. Early in my business, I started working with a dear friend of mine as her general manager. It was a contract role, and I was helping run her consulting and speaking business. And I was essentially taking everything that I had done in my own businesses and the consulting that we had been doing and how I had made the trains run, and I implemented it in her business. And we doubled her business in the first year, and then we doubled again in the second year. And it was great. I was working with a close friend, doing work that I loved, and I was able to, cover my expenses and fund my life. And it was great until things changed. It was around November of our second year, and my friend told me that due to some circumstances, she wouldn't be able to pay me the same as the previous year. And actually, she could only pay me about 75% of what she paid me before. And I was stuck. I wanted to keep doing the work and working with her, but I couldn't live on 75% less. Not in DC where I was living at the time. And of course, I didn't have anything else lined up because I'd been pretty comfortable working with her. But I had to do something. I had to scramble to make up that income. So I reached out to a bunch of people I knew who were involved in, small businesses and startups, and I offered to help with sales coaching. And a few folks did take me up on it. And so soon I had my first sales coaching clients. Those first sales coaching clients became more clients, which became my first group program. And, the rest, as they say, is history. So you could say that this business, the business that became Smart Gets Paid, grew directly out of me having one whale client. So I get it. And when I think about whale clients, what I really want to leave you with is this. As I mentioned, being reliant on a whale client is really common when you're early in your business. You may have heard me talk about 2 phases of running a consulting business, the startup phase and the messy middle. In the startup phase, you're getting what we call the first wave of clients, people who knew you from before or people who are referring you. And the startup phase lasts about, 18 months to 2 years. The messy middle is after those 2 years when that first wave of clients starts to slow down, or you're, well aware that it could slow down. And that's when smart women consultants realize they need a strategy to get clients. So when you're in the startup phase, you're really taking any client you can get. And that's exactly what I would tell you to do. And so if you're in the startup phase of your business and you're reliant on a whale client, I say that's okay. Get some early stability and build your experience and build your knowledge and really the confidence that what you're doing has value outside of a corporate environment. But as you move from the startup phase to the messy middle, that's when you should really be asking yourself, am I still relying on that one whale client? Because if you've been in business for a while and you're relying on a whale client or a couple whale clients, and you're not doing business development and, forget marketing, you don't even have room to take on any clients anyway, and you're sort of beholden to the whale clients, then you don't really have a business. you have a job. Because a job is where somebody else dictates your time. And a business is where you dictate your time. So you may want to ask, do you have a business or do you have a job? And if the answer is the latter, then it's good to catch that now so you can change it and really run a business and be in charge of your time and, of course, make a whole lot more money. And you can do that by focusing on a few things. First, identify who you really want to work with, the clients that are the best for you. Second, build a healthy pipeline so you can start to choose the clients you want and you don't have to take just any client. Third, structure your pricing around value so it's not based on your time or a block of hours or deliverables. And fourth, set healthy boundaries with your clients. Boundaries aren't just about when you're working together with a client. You actually start to set healthy boundaries from the very first interaction, and throughout the sales process, through your pricing, and then into your working relationship. So make sure you're teaching your client how to treat you. So as you heard, transforming from being reliant on one whale client to having a diverse client base, it is possible. It takes learning the skills and developing a system to get the clients that'll create this shift. And when you can do that, you can have a business, not a job, a business that you love.